Hi folks, it's Margo at Tri-Spy Tours, and welcome to another edition of Throwback Thursdays. True tales from the early days on Long Island, written by Kate Wheeler Strong. If you haven't been with us before, welcome. We focus on stories that were written in the Long Island Forum by Kate Wheeler Strong. If you're not familiar with the co-perspiring, there was a female member, Anna Smith Strong, and Kate was the great-great-great-granddaughter. Welcome to Tri-Spy Tours version of Kate's Tales. The Three Village Historical Society presents Tri-Spy Tours throughout the months of April until the day after Thanksgiving. We have our little turkey trot. Unfortunately now, because of COVID-19, we're not having our tours, so we thought we'd bring you some virtual events. So we've been having these Throwback Thursdays every Thursday. So when I started this company in collaboration with the Historical Society 7 years ago, Brookhaven town historian Barbara M. Russell was quoted in the Times Beacon Record newspapers as saying, "Lucky is the child who hears the story from an elder and cherishes it for years." So I am that child. I actually heard about the cult perspiring from Kate Wheeler Strong when I was 7 years old, and the story kind of just stuck. And here we are today. I was doing a charity bike ride, and I ran the regular walking tours for the society, and I said, we should do a bike version. And then as we were taking the bike ride, passed a lot of water. I said, we should do a water version. So Tri-Spy is a play on a triathlon, because we do a kayak version in conjunction with Pominock Tours, we do a walking tour version, and we do a bike version. So I'll wait for a few more people to hop on. Today we are at the gravesite of William Sidney Mount. So we're in for a real special treat today. We have a wonderful story about his home. And we are in the graveyard of the Setauket Presbyterian Church. So if you've not been to Setauket, I will take my camera around afterwards and we'll go visit Abraham Woodhull and say hello. But this church was established in 1660. The building you see here is the third building. It was completed in 1812, and it's listed on the National Register of Historic Places. So it's a real special spot. As I said, Abraham Woodhull is buried here. During the Revolutionary War, it was taken over by the British. Most churches that weren't part of the Church of England were taken over by the British, so hence Protestants no can do. So they took out their pews, they let their horses go inside, they fortified the entire outside with pickets. We're going to do a story about the Caroline Church next week and the Battle of Setauket, so I'll save a lot of that information for then. But let's talk about true tales. So Kate used to write for the Long Island Forum. You have the Long Island Forum there. There's actually a sketch of Kate on the cover. It was a monthly publication, and she would write a little article for it called True Tales from the Early Days on Long Island. Once a year, they would put out these books. I know it's backwards. That was the little pamphlet that had all of the month's public stories in it. And then Kate would invite all the neighbors over at the holidays, and she would give one to everybody. So I'm lucky enough to have a bunch from when I was a child. The M.S. Clark Library, which is I don't know if you could see it if I step out of the frame. We did a story there last month. Has a ton. They have about 50. So when they reopen, certainly go to the children's section of the library and check out their true tales. But let's get into the story and the reason that we're here today. So we are going to talk about William Sidney Mount. So for those of you who don't know William, I'll give you a little background. But I'm going to start this story with a little bit of a quote. And this is one of William's quotes. "A true painter should have no home, but to wander in search of scenery and character. And isn't Setauket that kind of place? You don't have to search very far to find amazing scenery and the character of its people back from its roots when the town was first founded on April 14th, 1655, all the way to today." But let me give you a little background on William. He was born on November 26, 1807, in Setauket, where we are now. Right across the way where the Emma S. Clark Library is today. He passed on November 19th, 1868 in Setauket. William was an American genre painter who mainly depicted rustic life in his native Long Island. He used a lot of subjects from the area, the Strongs, the Harts, so many of them are in his paintings. He was one of the first and best known 19th century anecdotal painters in the United States, so quite a feat. He was a farm boy to the age of 17, and then he apprenticed himself to his older brother Henry. Henry was a sign painter and he worked in New York City, and then they were joined by another brother, Shepherd Alonzo Mount, who eventually became a portrait painter. In 1826, when the National Academy of Design opened, they had drawing classes, and Mount was one of its first students. And he was elected an associate member in 1831 and became a full member in 1832. He stayed only about a year, returned to Setauket, where he continued painting, and then he would send his work to be exhibited into New York, and he received great acclaim. Although Mount began his career, and I like this part, painting historical subjects, soon after returning to Setauket, he began to explore the social manners and rituals of rural life in his work. Some of his favorite, and you can certainly visit the Long Island Museum, they have many of his paintings. I love Dance of the Haymakers. He did a Patriots Walk one. He has eel spearing in Setauket with one of the Thomas Strong and Mrs. Hart in the picture. So he really did depict everyday life here. So if you want to get a little taste of what life was like, in the 1830s and 40s and 50s, you don't have to look too far. Go to William's paintings and you'll see what it was like here in Setauket. His first one that he did was known as the Rustic Dance, and he completed that in 1830. He did not sentimentalize with his scenes, but rather he portrayed his subjects with a naturalness and a simplicity, and I think that's the beauty of his work. So again, please, when the Long Island Museum opens, go visit. They have great paintings of his, and I think you'll be in for a real treat if you've never seen his work before. Today's story that we're going to read is called Setauket, Home of the Mount Family. I'm going to read you a little something from the author, Kate, before we get into the actual story, and I'm going to show you a few sketches because I think it's important. So these are some notes from Kate. The two cuts that illustrate this article are from pencil drawings William Sidney Mount made in my grandmother's autograph album. So you can imagine that? Kate's grandmother's autograph album, William Sidney Mount made these sketches I'm about to show you. Pretty cool. The other, which Mount stated was the west room of the old manor house, so that's his old manor house, and we're going to hear about that in the story, was drawn after they moved and went over to Stony Brook. The older boy sitting in the chair is said to be Kate's grandmother, and the other one is her uncle, Thomas Shepherd Strong. So, and the little teeny boy is supposed to be her father, Selah. So I think it's just incredible how the Strongs and the Mounts and all these families kind of, work together for the quality of life and the beauty of life here in Setauket. This is the one sketch here, so I'm going to I don't know, it's awfully bright out today, so I don't know if you can see that. And then here is another one. Okay, oh, no, that's the only, sorry, pages stuck together. Okay, and this is the west room of that house. So the young boy you see is Selah Strong, and the other one is Thomas Shepherd Strong. And again, I don't know with the sun if you're getting a good look at it, but I hope you are. So sketches in Kate's grandfather's autograph book from William Sidney Mount. Very, very cool. Okay, so let's get into the reason why we're here. Okay. The tale is titled Setauket, Home of the Mount Family. I think very few people realize that the Mounts settled in Setauket before they went to Stony Brook. Their house stood near the road on the grounds now occupied by the Setauket Public School. So that's the Setauket School, which is, I'll swing around and show you afterwards, which is right behind me. Fortunately, we have a very accurate description of the house in an auction notice lent to me by Miss Julia Smith a number of years ago. She told me I could copy it and use it in any way I liked and return the paper to her, which I promptly did. Here is the notice. To be sold at public auction on the 7th of May at 12 o'clock noon on the premises and the property of Thomas Mount, deceased. The well-known stand for a store and tavern situated in the village of Setauket, adjoining the public green where most of the public business is done. So that's kind of neat because we're really getting a very accurate description of what Setauket was like during that time period. So most of the business was done right there at the green. It consisted of about 12 acres, and it was in a high state of cultivation with a variety of fruit trees of almost all kinds. There is on the premises a good house, barn, large horse shed, and granary, all in good repair. So that they were quite well off, and they really could, sustain themselves. The house is large and in a very convenient way, convenient for entertainment and public business. It was 2 stories high, 40 feet in the front, 30 in the rear, with a store adjoining the same. Also, another lot of land near the premises of 10 acres, of well-manured, good order, convenient for building or for improvement. The terms of the sale are easy and will be made known on said day, and the indisputable title will be given by Gilbert S. Mount. So can you imagine that that's how they sold houses back then? Kind of wild. Immediately after the above sale will commence the sale of the following articles of household and kitchen furniture: beds, bedding, tables, looking glass, crockery and glassware, and many other articles not enumerated. Setauket, April 2nd, 1816. So after, William's father died, I guess his mom knew that it was, time to tighten things up, and that's when they had to sell everything and go to Stony Brook. After the sale of the house, the Mounts moved to the home of Mrs. Mount's family in Stony Brook, known as the Hawkins Mount House. So folks, if you take 25A, you pass the Long Island Museums, you're heading towards St. James. That is that yellow house on the corner of Stony Brook Road and 25A. It sits in the little triangle there, and actually the original North Country Road was behind the Mount House, and that is the route that Washington took when he came to Setauket. So that's kind of neat. A little side note. Mr. Nuns of the firm of Nuns and Clark, the piano manufacturers, bought the Mount House. He cut off sections and gave it to his friend Robert Dykes. So that's how Dyke Road, going into Strong's Neck, got its name. Who had come with him from England. Mr. Dykes used it as a kitchen for a house he was building in the upper road to Setauket Station. So, for those of you who are not familiar, there was a Setauket train station here. It was on Bennett's Road, sort of like behind that Bank of America. So that was the Setauket train station. So that kind of neat. And Mr. Dykes used it as a kitchen for a house he was building on the upper road to the Setauket Station. His house still stands today. On the site, well, it doesn't stand today, but it stood back when Kate wrote the article. On the site of the Mount House, Mr. Nuns built a house of brick with deep double windows. The piano factory up on the hill was also of brick. So Setauket had in the heart of it a piano factory. This did well until after the Civil War, and it injured the business because they had many clients who were from the South. Later, Mr. Ridgway bought the house, so that's Ridgway Avenue, where the St. James Catholic Church is. And it was known as the Ridgway House until it was torn down to make way for the present Setauket School building. To return to the main part of the old Mount House, it belonged to the Ridgways and had many tenants. The house was 2 stories with several fireplaces, one of which was so huge it probably was in the tavern kitchen. There was also a wing which extended over the top of the horse sheds. I have been told the doorknobs were of brass, which took a very fine polish. There was a private school held in the big left-hand upstairs the room, which went the width of the house and had windows on 3 sides. Wow. I went to school there for a couple of years, and I remember one day standing at the east window to watch and see my father drive by. I walked to school and generally rode home with my father at the end of the day when he came out to get the mail. There had been much excitement over the presidential election, and my father was strongly for Grover Cleveland. On seeing the carriage, I cried out that Cleveland had won because instead of the whip in the whip socket was the United States flag. Father had been to Port Jefferson that morning and had taken the flag with him and waited until he was sure of the news before he proudly displayed it. As my two companions at the window were on the other side, I proclaimed with great joy, "Cleveland has won!" In June, I think it was in the year 1945, the old house went up in a blaze of glory that illuminated the whole countryside. A fiery end to the first home of the three famous Mount brothers. The end. So what a story those Mounts have, and what a beautiful home. So that is the end of that true tale, but I am going to unlock this from here, and we are going to take a little cruise around the Setauket Presbyterian graveyard. So let me just flip you around. Okay, and we are going to... So again, we are at the Setauket Presbyterian Church. It was established in 1660. First building was finally completed in 1669. Their first pastor was the Reverend Nathaniel Brewster. It has been said that he preached his first sermon above Patriots Rock. During the Revolutionary War, this building was taken over by the British. You know, the British took over many of the, Anglican churches, and the Setauket Presbyterian was no exception. It wasn't part of the Church of England. And they made it into a garrison, but as I said earlier, we're going to come back there. But I just want to stop at Abraham Woodhull's grave because, you know why I've been here for the past 45 minutes setting up? There's been like 6 people who came to visit. It's Abraham's grave. So it really is starting to really miss doing tours. So I hope when things get better in our country, we can certainly have you folks come and visit. So there's Abraham's original headstone, and I'm going to tell you a neat story. There's his wife, Mary. Okay, so we have this marker on top. Okay. Oh, you can't really see it because of the shadows, but it says Abraham Woodhull, friend and confidant of George Washington, head of Long Island Secret Service during the Revolution, and operated under the alias of Samuel Culper Sr. To him and his associates have been credited a large share in the success of the Army of the Revolution. So, this is where I want to talk to you. This was erected by the Mayflower chapter of the Daughters of the Revolution, Loyalist group, actually based up in Canada now. These plaques here, you see, were put up by the DAR, the Daughters of the American Revolution. We have a chapter here, the Anna Smith Strong, and then there's one here for Mary. Now this was put up 1936, okay? Abraham's house, which is down the way on Dyke Road heading into Strong's Neck, it's no longer there, but you'll see the Woodhull marker, burnt down allegedly by a lamp on a wood table in 1931, okay? 1931, house burns down. 1936, monument built. See these bricks, folks? That's all bricks from Abraham's family home. So somebody thought for 5 years, hey, you know what? Let's save these because one day we might need them. So I love that part of the story. That's why people like to come on the Tri-Spy tours, because we give you just little tidbits sort of outside the box. And that certainly is one of them. The other headstone I want you guys to see is Richard Woodhull, one of the town founders. One of the town founders. This doesn't look very old. That's because the tombs of these men were destroyed by British soldiers in 1777. So again, next week we're going to be coming to you live from Caroline Church. We're going to talk about the Battle of Setauket. We're going to talk about the Caroline Church being the oldest continuously running wooden Episcopal church in the United States, and many other things. So we hope to see you again real soon. So I'll just give you a little pan here of the cemetery. Okay. Folks, please stay healthy. Take care of each other. Hop on over to the Three Village Historical Society's website. There's a donate button now. Obviously, we rely on donations and events, and we don't have any events going on right now. So even if you could give $5, we greatly appreciate it. So again, you can hop over to the Three Village Historical Society's website, www.tvh.org. You can go to their Facebook page. And we miss you all, and we can't wait to be up and running and have you guys visit us on Tri-Spy Tour. So I'm going to leave you with Abraham's gravesite. Thank you all for being here. Blessings, and have a positive day.